Hello students, today we are going to take the third chapter in history, that is first phase of the Indian national movement. The history of the Indian national movement can broadly be divided into three phases. The early nationalist phase 1885 to 1907, the assertive phase 1907 to 1916, and the Gandhian era 1915 to 1947. The early nationalists. In its initial years, the Congress was led by a group of leaders known as the early nationalists. The members of this group were drawn from the educated middle class, consisting of professionals like lawyers, barristers, teachers, and officials who drew inspiration from Western liberal and radical thoughts. Many of them were educated in England and felt that the British intended to be just to Indians, but they were unaware of the true state of Indian affairs. तो कांग्रेस के शुरुआती दौर में जो कांग्रेस के जो नेता थे वह पढ़े लिखे मध्यम वर्ग के लोग थे. अधिकतम ये वह लोग थे जो विदेश में जाकर पढ़कर आए थे और वहाँ के कल्चर और इतिहास से काफ़ी प्रभावित थे. ये जो कांग्रेसी थे उस ज़माने के, ये अधिकतर टीचर्स थे, लॉयर्स थे, बैरिस्टर्स थे और ऑफिशियल्स थे जो वेस्टर्न आइडियाज़ से काफ़ी प्रभावित थे. उनका ये मानना था कि अंग्रेज अच्छे हैं, केवल उन्हें हमारी समस्याओं के बारे में जानकारी नहीं है. वे हमारी परेशानियां, हमारी मुसीबतें नहीं जानते हैं और यद्यपि उन्हें हम हमारी तकलीफ़ बता देंगे तो वह उनको ज़रूर सुलझा देंगे, ऐसा इनका मानना था. Leaders. The early nationalists included leaders from all parts of the country as W.C. Banerjee, Rasbihari Ghosh, Surendranath Banerjee, and R.C. Dutt from Bengal, Dadabhai Nauroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, and Justice Ranade from Maharashtra and Gujarat, P.R. Naidu, Subramanya Iyer, and Ananda Charlu from Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya from Uttar Pradesh, liberal Englishmen like Hume and Wedderburn. तो ये लीडर्स थे उस ज़माने के, भारत देश के हर अलग अलग क्षेत्र से आते थे. The early nationalist leaders who led the Congress and the national movement in its initial years were staunch believers in open-minded and moderate politics. They believed in loyalty to the British Crown. B.C. Pal, an early nationalist leader, said in 1887, "I am loyal to the British government because, with me, loyalty to the British government is identical with loyalty to my own people and my own country." They wanted that Indians should have their proper and legitimate share in the government. तो शुरुआती दौर के जो कांग्रेस के जो लीडर थे वो बहुत ही खुले विचार के लोग थे. उनका बहुत ही दृढ़ मानना था कि जो अंग्रेज है वह जो भारत देश के लिए एक तोहफा बनकर आए हैं, एक नई किरण, उम्मीद की किरण बनकर आए हैं, क्योंकि इससे पहले जो राजा महाराजा थे उनके शासन में काफ़ी अत्याचार चलता था. तो उन्होंने इन अंग्रेज़ों को और उनके रहन सहन को देखकर उन्हें लगा कि ब्रिटिश हमारे देश के लिए, हमारे हित के लिए काम करेंगे. B.C. पाल का देखो मानना क्या था. B.C. पाल ये कौन थे? ये एक कांग्रेसी नेता थे 1888 या 1887 में वो क्या कहते हैं कि मैं ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट का वफादार हूँ, क्योंकि ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट के साथ वफादारी मतलब मैं अपने खुद देश के लोगों के साथ में वफादारी कर रहा हूँ। इतना उनको अंग्रेज़ों के ऊपर विश्वास था। ये इनका क्या था, इनका मेन मकसद क्या था कि सरकार में इन्हें भी बराबर का हक या बराबर की जगह दी जाए। They asked for constitutional and other reforms within the framework of the British rule, and they had faith in the British sense of justice and fair play. They believed that continuation of the British connection with India was in the interest of both England and India. They concerned themselves with the demand for reforms. The demands were moderate in nature. तो शुरुआती दौर के जो कांग्रेसी थे वह चाहते थे कि देश के जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में है उसमें कुछ रिफॉर्म्स लाया जाए, कुछ चेंजेस लाया जाए, और उनको अंग्रेज़ों पर बहुत विश्वास था कि अंग्रेज़ न्याय करेंगे। और उनका ये मानना था कि अगर ब्रिटिश इंडिया के साथ में कनेक्टेड रहेगा, जितना देर इंडिया के साथ में ब्रिटिश रहेगा, इंडिया की उतनी ही तरक्की होगी। जो शुरुआती दौर के जो कांग्रेसी थे उनके जो डिमांड्स थे बहुत ही मॉडरेट थे, कोई बहुत ही ज़्यादा डिमांड नहीं था और बहुत ही कम डिमांड नहीं था, एक प्रकार का मॉडरेट डिमांड था। उनका क्या विश्वास था, देखिए, बिलीव्स ऑफ द अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट। द अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट हैड फेथ इन द सेंस ऑफ जस्टिस, फेयर प्ले, ऑनेस्टी एंड इंटीग्रिटी ऑफ द ब्रिटिशर्स। तो उनको अंग्रेज़ों पर, जैसा मैं बार बार कह रहा हूँ, कि बहुत भरोसा था कि वह न्यायशील है, वह सही ढंग से न्याय करेंगे, वह बहुत ही ऑनेस्ट है, ईमानदार है और बहुत ही इंटीग्रेटेड है, यानी अपने काम को लेकर बहुत ही अटल है। इट वॉज देयर होप दैट द ब्रिटिश वुड ग्रांट होम रूल टू इंडियंस। उनका ये मानना था और ये उनसे उम्मीद थी, अंग्रेज़ों से उम्मीद थी कि वह हमें होम रूल दे देंगे। होम रूल का मतलब क्या कि सरकार वैसे तो अंग्रेज़ों की होगी लेकिन चलाएंगे भारतीय चुने हुए नेता, इसे होम रूल कहते हैं। दे रिलाइड ऑन द सोलम प्लेजेस मेड बाय द ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट। ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट ने जो वादा किया था उसके ऊपर उनको बहुत ज़्यादा भरोसा था। दे बिलीव दैट द ब्रिटिश रूल हैड मेनी बेनिफिट्स। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इट aided in cleansing social ills like sati, untouchability and child marriage। तो उनका ये मानना था अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट का कि जो ब्रिटिश रूल जो है वो बहुत फ़ायदेमंद रूल है, क्योंकि हमारे सोसाइटी में जो अपराध थे या जो नेगेटिव बातें थी जैसे कि सती, अनटचेबिलिटी और चाइल्ड मैरिज, इसको ये अंग्रेज़ लोग हटाकर रहेंगे। They were of the opinion that Britain would help Indians govern themselves according to Western standards। उनको ऐसा लगा कि ब्रिटेन जो है भारत देश को भारतीयों के हवाले कर देंगे और हमें हमारा देश जो है वेस्टर्न स्टैंडर्ड्स के हिसाब से चलाने का मौका दे देंगे। They said that the main obstacle in India's progress was social and economic backwardness of Indians and not the British colonial rule। तो ये अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट का मानना था कि जो इंडिया के प्रोग्रेस की जो बाधाएं जो है वह अंग्रेज सरकार नहीं है, वह हमारा बैकवर्डनेस है, इकोनॉमिक बैकवर्डनेस है और सोशल बैकवर्डनेस। दे रिलाइड ऑन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल एंड पीसफुल मेथड्स टू अचीव देयर एम्स। They believed in patience and reconciliation rather than in violence and confrontation। तो ये शांति प्रिय नेता थे जो शांति में विश्वास रखते थे, जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल रिफॉर्म्स में, मेथड्स में विश्वास रखते थे। वह कभी वायलेंस को या कॉन्फ्रंटेशंस को कभी एक मौका भी नहीं दिया आज़ादी की लड़ाई के लिए या अपना हक जताने के लिए। डिमांड्स ऑफ द अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट, इनके डिमांड्स कैसे थे? The demand of the early nationalists may be studied under the following heads. Constitutional reforms. The early nationalists wanted a larger share in the government of their country. They believed that eventually India should move towards democratic self-government. However, they did not ask for immediate achievement of their goal, as they feared that the government would suppress their activities. They therefore aimed at winning freedom through a gradual process. They made the following demands. जो अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट है उनकी जो डिमांड है, हम इसके बारे में थोड़ा चर्चा करते हैं. वह रिफॉर्म्स चाहते थे. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में रिफॉर्म्स चाहते थे. वो चाहते थे कि जो अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट है उनको सरकार में रहने का ज़्यादा हिस्सा दिया जाए, सरकार में उनके मेंबर्स को बढ़ा दी जाए. उनका ऐसा मानना था कि धीरे धीरे करके इंडिया जो है एक डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री बन जाना चाहिए और सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट बनना चाहिए. और उनको ये भी डर था कि अगर वो अचानक से डिमांड करेंगे कि हमें आज़ादी चाहिए तो ब्रिटिश उन्हें पनपने ही नहीं देगा, ब्रिटिश कांग्रेस को ही सप्रेस कर देगा और जो उनका जो मूवमेंट है वो ख़त्म हो जाएगा. ये बात सही भी थी उनकी. तो उन्हें लगा कि हम जो आज़ादी का जो प्रोसेस है वो बहुत ही ग्रेजुअल करेंगे, बहुत ही धीरे धीरे करके करेंगे. They made the following demands. Abolition of Indian Council, expansion of the Legislative Council and Legislative Assemblies both at the center and in the provinces, increase in the membership of the Indians by including some members elected by local bodies like chambers of commerce, universities, etc. In these councils and by giving greater power to them, they demanded Indian control over the public purse and raised the slogan, "No taxation without representation." By the beginning of the 20th century, they made a demand for Swarajya or self-government within the British Empire, like the self-governing colonies of Canada and Australia. Adequate representation of Indians in the Executive Council of the Viceroy and those of the governors. Economic reforms. The economic issues raised by the early nationalists included reduction in land revenue and protection of peasants against unjust demand of the zamindars, reduction in expenditure on the army and the money thus saved to be spent on welfare activities such as health and education, an inquiry into India's growing poverty and famines, availability of cheap credit to peasants through agricultural banks, development of banking, irrigation, medical and health facilities for the people, industrial growth through trade protection. That means that a heavy tax should be imposed on imported goods and the government should give loans for the development of iron, coal, paper and sugar industries in India. Total abolition of salt tax and the duty on sugar. तो बहुत ही प्लेन लैंग्वेज में है, इसे एक्सप्लेन करने की शायद मुझे ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. Administrative demands. The early nationalists made the following demands in the administrative sphere. Demand for Indianization of services through simultaneous Indian civil service examinations in England and India. Complete separation of the executive and the judiciary. They made this demand to protect Indians from the arbitrary acts of the police and the bureaucracy. Increase in the powers of the local, that is municipal bodies, and reduction of official control over them. Repeal of the Arms Act and License Act. Wider employment of Indians in the higher grades of administrative services. Spread of primary education among masses. Improvement of the police system to make it honest, efficient, and popular. Defense of civil rights. The early nationalists defended civil rights whenever the British government tried to curtail them. In fact, it was because of the political work done by the early nationalists that democratic ideas began to take root among Indians. The early nationalists demand the following civil rights: 1. Removal of the restrictions imposed by the British government on the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press. 2. Abolition of the Preventive Detention Act and restoration of individual liberties. And 3. Restoration of right to assemble and to form associations. The early nationalists were practical. They wanted to win freedom by a gradual process. They did not aim at high demands because they wanted to work on the lines of least resistance. Besides, they did not want to arouse serious opposition. तो ऐसा नहीं कि अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट पूरी तरह से फेलियर्स थे. ये देखो, डिफेंस ऑफ सिविल राइट्स में उन्होंने काफ़ी कुछ, उनका जो डिमांड था काफ़ी अच्छे डिमांड्स थे और इसकी वजह से ही डेमोक्रेटिक रूल इंडिया में आ पाया. अगर इनके डिमांड शुरुआत में ही बहुत ही ज़्यादा स्टर्न होते, बहुत ही ज़्यादा स्ट्रिक्ट होते, तो शायद इंडिया को डेमोक्रेसी नहीं मिलती. मेथड्स ऑफ द अर्ली नेशनलिस्ट्स. द मेथड popularly known as constitutional agitation method was followed by the early nationalists. They believed in the policy of constitutional agitation with a legal framework and slow, orderly political progress. The methods adopted by the early nationalists had two objectives. First set of methods. The first objectives was to educate people in India in modern politics, to arouse national political consciousness and to create a united public opinion. For this purpose, they relied on the following methods. Number 1, they held meetings where speeches were made and resolutions for popular demands were passed. They made use of the press to criticize government policies. Number 3, they sent memorandums and petitions to government officials and the British Parliament. These petitions were carefully drafted with facts and arguments. Though these petitions were addressed to the government, their real aim was to educate the Indian people. Second set of methods. The second objective of the early nationalists was to influence the British government and the British public. To achieve this objective, they followed the following methods. 1. They made use of 3 P's, that is, petitions, prayers, and protests. They sent petitions, requests, and letters of protest to the British government to look into the problems of the Indians. 2. A British Committee of Indian National Congress was set up in London in 1889, which published a weekly journal, India, to present India's case before the British public. 3. Deputation of Indian leaders were sent to Britain. These political leaders carried on active propaganda in Britain. For example, Dadabhai Nauroji spent a major part of his life in Britain to create awareness among British people and politicians about the plights of Indians. Achievement of the early nationalists. The early nationalists represented the most progressive force of the time. They made the following contributions to the Indian national movement. 1. The early nationalists created national awakening among people that they belonged to one common country, India. This made Indians conscious of the bonds of common political, economical, and cultural interest that united them. The early nationalists trained people in politics by popularizing the ideas of democracy, civil liberty, secularism, and nationalism. 3. The early nationalists did pioneering work by exposing the true nature of the British rule in India. They made people realize the economic content and character of British imperialism. By doing so, they weakened the foundations of the British rule in India. 4. Their political and economic programs established the truth that India must be ruled in the interest of the Indians. 5th, the effort of the early nationalists led to the following reforms: the appointment of a Public Service Commission in 1886, a resolution of the House of Commons 1893 for simultaneous examination for the ICS in London and India. 3. Appointment of the Welby Commission of Indian Expenditure 1895. 4. The Indian Councils Act of 1892. These achievements of the early nationalists serves as a basis for the national movement in the later years. Criticism of the early nationalists. The early nationalists have been criticized on the following grounds. The methods used by the early nationalists of passing resolutions and sending petitions were criticized as inadequate. They depended on the generosity of the British instead of relying on their own strength and challenging the imperialist might. They failed to realize that British and Indian interests clashed with each other. Britain was using India's resources to increase its wealth. 3. The early nationalists failed to draw the masses into the mainstream of the national movement. Their area of influence was limited to the urban educated Indians. In particular, their leadership was confined to professional groups such as lawyers, doctors, journalists, and teachers. Official attitude towards the Congress. In the beginning, the British government looked upon the Congress movement with favor. In fact, a few government officials attended the first session of the Congress and took part in its deliberations. The Congress members were invited to a garden party by the Viceroy, Lord Dufferin, in Kolkata in 1886 and the Governor of Chennai in 1887. But the official attitude soon changed. Lord Dufferin tried to divert the national movement by suggesting to Hume that the Congress should be devoted itself to social rather than political affairs. However, instead of being a tool in the hands of the authorities, the Congress gradually became the focus of Indian nationalism. In 1887, Lord Dufferin attacked the National Congress in his speech and ridiculed it as representing only a microscopic minority of the people. British officials criticized the National Congress and branded its leaders as disloyal babus and violent villains. In 1890, the government emphasized In 1890, the government employees were forbidden from participating in the Congress deliberations or attending its meetings. Realizing that the growing unity of the Indians posed a major threat to their rule, the British pushed further the policy of divide and rule. They encouraged Syed Ahmad Khan, Raja Siva Prasad of Benares, Varanasi, and other pro-British individuals to start an anti-Congress movement. They sowed seeds of communalism between the Hindus and the Muslims on the one hand and between the Indian masses and their leaders on the other. They followed a policy of granting minor concessions to put down the growth of nationalism. However, their policy of repression and hostility made the Congress more powerful. Prominent early nationalist leaders: Dadabhai Naoroji, 1825 to 1917. Dadabhai Naoroji, popularly known as the Grand Old Man of India, was born in a Parsi family in Mumbai on September 4, 1825. He worked as a professor of mathematics in Elphinstone College at Mumbai for 10 years. In 1855, he left the teaching profession and went to England as a partner in a firm. In 1869, he returned to Mumbai. He was elected to the Mumbai Municipal Corporation and later to the Town Council. He founded the Bombay Association, edited the newspaper Rast Goftar, Speaker of Truth. He started a magazine, Dharma Marg Darshak. He started movements against the Vernacular Press Act and the atrocious treatment of poor peasants by zamindars. His contributions of Dadabhai Naoroji. 1. India's unofficial ambassador. During his stay in England, Dadabhai was looked upon as India's unofficial ambassador, fighting for the cause of his country. In 1865, he founded the London Indian Society in collaboration with W. C. Banerjee to publicize grievances of Indians. He was the first Indian to become the member of the British House of Commons in England. While he was a member of the British Parliament, he brought to the notice of the House important matters related to India. He was in favor of appointing educated Indians to high posts. It was due to his efforts that in 1893 the House of Commons passed a resolution in favor of holding the ICS examination in England and India simultaneously. In 1866, he founded the East India Association in London. The East India Association soon became popular and its branches were set up in Kolkata, Mumbai and Chennai. Second, role in the Congress. Dadabhai's role in the Congress was praiseworthy. He took an active part in the foundation of the Indian National Congress and was elected its president thrice, in 1866, in 1893 and 1906 respectively. Resolutions on self-government, boycott, Swadeshi and national education were passed by the Congress under his presidentship. The credit of demanding Swaraj from the Congress platform for the first time, 1906, goes to him. In his presidential address, he said that the Congress wanted self-government or Swaraj like that of the United Kingdom or the colonies. Third, expose the economic ills of India. As an economic thinker, he came to the conclusion that the root cause for the economic ills of the Indians was the exploitation of India by the British. Dadabhai's views on Indian economy are given in his work entitled Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. His famous drain theory explained how India's wealth was being drained to England through various ways. Dadabhai passed away in 1917, leaving behind a lesson of selfless service to the nation. C.Y. Chintamani had rightly said, the public life of India had been adorned by a galaxy of brilliant intellects and selfless patriots, but there has been in our time none comparable with Dadabhai Nauroji. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, 1866 to 1915. Gopal Krishna Gokhale was born at Kolhapur in Maharashtra in 1866. He was a professor of history and economics at Fergusson College in Pune. He was influenced by the ideas of Justice M. G. Ranade. He joined the Deccan Educational Society founded by Justice Ranade. On behalf of the society, he went to England to propagate Indian views before the Welby Commission. He was awarded the title of CIE, Companion of the Indian Empire. Gokhale became the most popular leader of the Indian National Congress. He presided over the Varanasi session of the Congress in 1905. Having faith in British liberalism, he said, "The goal of the Congress should be the attainment of a form of government similar to that which existed in the self-governing colonies of the British Empire." His contributions persuaded the British for reforms. Gokhale favored the use of constitutional means to achieve his goals. He opposed the policies of the British government whenever necessary. He criticized the government on issues such as incurring huge expenditure on the British Army, adopting the policy of racial discrimination in appointment to high posts, imposing production tax on cotton. He made a strong plea for the reform of the legislative councils and separation of judiciary from the executive. He played an important role in the passage of Minto Morley reforms. He also served as a member of the Indian Public Service Commission and urged it to increase the share of Indians in higher services. During his visit to England, he tried to persuade the British statesmen not to give effect to the partition of Bengal. Servants of India Society. Gokhale set up the Service of India Society in 1905. The main aim of the society was to train national leaders who would dedicate themselves to the service of India. Some of the important members of the society were Srinivas Sastri and Hridayanath Kunzru. Role as a member of Imperial Legislative Council. In 1902, Gokhale became the member of the Imperial Legislative Council. He pleaded in the council for reduction of salt duty and the abolition of excise duty on cotton goods. His relentless efforts led to reduction in toll tax. He tried to introduce a bill with a view to make primary education compulsory, but he could not achieve much success in it. Being an economist, he demanded radical changes in the fiscal policy and better jobs for the educated middle class. He impressed upon the government to reduce the land revenue. Gokhale and Gandhiji. Gokhale went to South Africa where he helped Gandhiji in his fight against racial discrimination. The credit of persuading Gandhiji to return to India and join Indian public life also goes to Gokhale. In fact, Gandhiji accepted Gokhale as his political mentor. Gokhale died on February 15, 1915, when his popularity was at its peak. Surendranath Banerjee, 1848 to 1925. Surendranath Banerjee was a nationalist leader, popular journalist and dedicated educationist. He was born in Bengal in 1848. He was the first Indian to qualify for the Indian Civil Service examination. He worked as a magistrate in Assam, but he was soon dismissed because he opposed the policy of racial discrimination followed by the British. Surendranath Banerjee began his career as a professor of English at the Metropolitan College. He set up his own school, which later developed into Ripon College. Surendranath was elected to the Calcutta Corporation and remained its member for nearly 2 decades. He was elected to the Bengal Legislative Council 4 times. In 1921, he was appointed as Minister of Self-Government and Health by the Governor of Bengal. He was the first Indian to hold that position. He advocated use of constitutional methods for the attainment of India's goal. His famous saying was, "Opposition was necessary, cooperation was possible." His contribution: established the Indian Association. To fight against the wrong policies of the British, he founded the Indian Association in 1876. Its aims were to educate the people, to create strong public opinion in the country, and to arouse political consciousness and unity. Created an All India political organization. In order to create an All India political organization, Surendranath convened the Indian National Conference in 1883 at Kolkata. Surendranath Banerjee's Indian National Conference merged with the Indian National Congress in 1886, as both organizations had similar objectives. He presided over 2 sessions of the Congress in 1895 and 1902. Political ideas. Banerjee edited a newspaper, Bengali, which served as a powerful medium for mobilizing public opinion. His book, Nation in the Making, gives an account of his political concern and his views about self-government. Banerjee started agitation against the License Act, Arms Act, Vernacular Press Act, and against lowering the age from 21 to 19 years to appear in the ICS examination. He opposed the Morley-Minto reforms of 1909, which introduced separate electorates for the Hindus and the Muslims. He also opposed the division of Bengal by Lord Curzon in 1905. Banerjee, popularly known as the father of Indian nationalism, breathed his last in 1925. With this, we come to the end of the chapter.